Chapter 11: Values and Vision. Part 2: Commitment is a sign of maturity. Commitment means not quitting at the first option or a sign of problems. Individuals with strong commitments build strong communities. Relationships are based on commitment, not just on closeness and intimacy. A person can be intimate and close, yet not be committed. Society's values have changed so drastically over the last several decades that it is even considered good to have uncommitted relationships. Many people confuse commitment with confinement. They are not willing to make commitment because they feel they are not ready for them. In the meantime, sometimes for years, they use anything and everything for others. Their pretext is we are still checking out each other before we commit. What are they checking out? That they haven't already checked out in a few days or a few months or a few years? In my opinion, they are selfish parasites who are trying to get as much as possible while the going is good. They are only takers who are liability to society. Relationships don't last because of passion and love, but because of commitment and empathy. A commitment implies putting the other person's need ahead of one's own. Sometimes good people with the best intentions are faced with conflicting commitments. For instance, number one, a policeman is committed to caring for his wife who is not on her deathbed. He is by her side when the gets a call to handle an emergency situation where 10 lives are at stake. What does he do? Number two, a surgeon is looking forward to his daughter's graduation. He has promised to attend this once in a lifetime event. 20 minutes before the start of the ceremony, he gets an emergency call to operate on an accident victim to save his life. What choice does he have? Choosing one does not mean lack of commitment to the other. The process of choosing between the two commitments involves priorities. Responsibility and duty, value-based priority help us to choose one commitment over the other without a shadow of guilt. The surgeon most likely would prefer to attend his daughter's graduation, but it doesn't matter what his preference are or what he feels like doing. Commitment involves the 11 element we talked about before, whether we feel like it or not. Keeping commitment shows strength of character. It takes subordinating our desires to the other person's needs but not to his whims and fantasies. Needs are essential, whereas desires are infinite. And in case of conflict of needs, one has to prioritize responsibility and duties. In a relationship such as marriage, two people are committed to one another. Supposing one develops cancer after a year, should one feel cheated, deprived, resentful, blame the other person for ruining his or her life? That is not commitment. That is selfishness. The most painful part of commitment is accepting a breach of trust when it happens. The commitment goes on if the breach results from an error of omission. Breach of omission can be handled with compassion and forgiveness. However, it needs evaluation if it is a result of breach of commission. The response to a breach of commission is, you cheat me once, shame on you. You cheat me twice, shame on me. Commitments can rarely be kept without forgiveness. In some relationships, regardless of whether the breach of trust is due to omission or commission, the answer is forgiveness. For example, a child may betray his parents' trust by lying or cheating. But if the parents are keep their commitment to the child, they must forgive him, give him a direction and teach him the consequence of lying. When people betray trust just because there is forgiveness, that amounts to crookedness. Can forgiveness be treated as a blank check to a limitless account? Maybe not. What is our greatest commitment? What if we inadvertently made a commitment that is wrong or unethical and goes against our value system and conscience? Our greatest commitment is to reevaluate whether or not to go forward with it. Commitment to values. Loyalties cannot be bought, they can only be earned. And to whom do we owe loyalties? Is it to individuals or organizations? The answer is none of them. We owe loyalties to values. Where the value system is conflicting, people cannot live in the same home or work in the same organization. When a person makes a commitment of a loyalty to either an individual or an organization, what is he really saying? He is saying, I stand by you because I believe in what you believe in. What is the person I committed to becomes a drug dealer or a spy for an enemy country? Do I continue my support because I committed earlier? Absolutely not. I am not committed to support unethical and illegal behavior. Commitments not kept lead to broken homes, abandoned children, poor relationship, high stress level, guilt, unfulfilled life, loss of business, isolation, depression. Make a commitment and stay committed. Ethics. Bad circumstances are not excuses for making bad choices. Values and ethics are not just designed for good times, but also to get you through bad times. They are like the laws of the land. You need them when circumstances are good, but they are even more valuable to protect you from the bad. Most choices are not ethical choices. For example, what clothes to buy or what TV to get, a personal choice is based on what is most appropriate for your situation. They are not ethical choices. Personal choices are subjective nor objective. Even though these are not ethical issues, they certainly involve responsibility. Ethical choices reflect objective choice between right and wrong. That is why your conscience hurts when making an unethical choice and does not hurt when you make a wrong personal choice. Because in ethical matter there is a clear right choice. Just as with a math test who takes it and whatever answer they give varies, but what makes it right is not the choice, but actual correctness of the answer. Being a nice person is not the same thing as being a good and ethical person. A person can be socially nice yet be a cheat and liar. That makes him nice but unethical. However, niceness reflects social acceptability. Nice does not mean good. Unfortunately, many of our choices today seem to be based on number one, our desire of for convenience, comfort, and pleasure. Number two, our feelings, the criteria is to feel good rather than do what is responsible. Number three, social facts and ads. The philosophy that everyone else is doing it, so why shouldn't I? It is a common belief that ethics and ethical choices are confusing. The big question is to whom? Only to those with unclear values. Situational ethics. Those who believe that ethics cannot be generalized but vary with every situation come up with the justification and keep changing their ethics from situation to situation and person to person. This is called situational ethics. This is the ethics of convenience rather than conviction. Benchmarks. There are harmony and inner peace to be found in following a moral compass that points in the same direction, regardless of fashion or a trend. Ted Koppel. Why do we have standards? Standards are a measure. 1 meter in Europe is 1 meter in Asia. 1 kilogram of flour is 1 kilogram of flour wherever you go. People who do not want to adhere to any moral standards keep changing the definition of morality by saying nothing is right or wrong. That's one thinking makes it so. They put the onus on interpretation rather than on their behavior. They feel my behavior is okay, your interpretation was faulty. For example, Hitler could have believed he was right, but the big question is, was he right? Giving money to the hungry for food is right, but at the same time, giving money to the buy drug is not. The generalization sets the benchmark, the expectation is the situation. For example, murder is wrong. That is a general statement and generalized truth and ethical standard, unless it is a self-defense. This doesn't say that it is okay to murder if the weather is good or if you feel like it. Our standards of ethic is revealed by the advisory we hire, the suppliers we choose, the buyers we deal with, as much as how we spend our leisure time. Opinions may vary from culture to culture, but values such as fairness, justice, integrity, and commitment are universal and eternal. They have nothing to do with culture. Never has there been a time when society has not respected courage over cowardice. Ethics and justice involve the following: empathy, fairness, compassion for the injured, the ill, and the aged, the larger interest of society. Just because a majority of people agree on something doesn't make it right. If the citizens of the country voted to disenfranchise all blue-eyed people, that doesn't make it right. Basic ethics are pretty universal, just as a freedom without discipline leads to destruction. Similarly, society with a set of principles destroys itself. It values ways to subject criminals should be in jail. A society becomes good or bad based on ethical values of individuals. And what gives a society its strength is its underlying ethical values. People who believe in the reality of ethics get stuck in their own paradox. They say everything is relative. The statement itself is an absolute truth. It is self contradictory. The distinction between right and wrong, dishonesty and honesty, presupposes their existence. Changing terminology does not change the meaning, just like changing labels does not change the content. Low moral values become moral accepted by giving them new names. The media glamorizes immorality, liars are called extroverts with an imagination. To educate a man in a mind and not in a morals is to educate a menace to society. Theodore Roosevelt. When Michael Severin, the president of Columbia University, resigned in 1993, a reporter asked him if there was any task left incomplete. Yes, replied Severin. It sounds complacent, but there is a really only one. He referred to the lack of instruction in ethics. The average undergraduate, however, gets no training in these areas. Most educators are afraid to touch the subject. The subject of ethics is usually left to parents to address. The result is that young people who need moral and ethical training more than ever are getting less than ever. Morals and ethics are not religion. They are logical, sensible principles of good conduct that we need for a peaceful society. Ethics and legality. Let no man be sorry he has done good, because the others have done evil. If a man has acted right, he has done well, though alone if wrong. The sanction of all mankind will not justify him. Henry Fielding. Most will agree that legality and ethics are not the same thing. What may be ethical may or may not be legal and vice versa. For example, number one, an insurance salesperson more concerned with getting a larger commission than selling the best policy for that particular client sells an unsuitable policy. This may be legal, but it is an unethical. Number two, a young executive is driving over the speed limit, trying to reach the hospital with his bleeding child in the back seat of his car. Hardly anyone would question in the ethics of breaking the law in this situation. It would be unethical not to get medical help to save the child's life, even if it meant breaking the law. Legality establishes minimum standards, whereas ethics and values go behind those standards. Ethics and values are about fairness and justice. They are not about pleasing or displeasing people. They are about respecting people's needs and rights. Purpose in life. There are many kinds of desire. Desires for success, desire to do one's duty, even at the cost of pleasure. Desire for purpose, something worth dying for which gives meaning to life. What good is it if you gain the whole world and lose your conscience? A purposeless life is a living death. What is your purpose? Do you have one? Purpose brings passion. Find or create a purpose and then pursue it with passion and perseverance. Every day we need to ask ourselves, am I getting any closer to my purpose in life? Am I making this better place to live? If the answer is no, then we have just wasted a day of our life. Life will reward us in proportion to our contribution. The earlier we find a purpose in life, the better our life will be. The greatest challenge lies in the unending search for the purpose of life, not only an individual but also for our family, organization, and country. Once our purpose and values are clear, conflicts between self interest and social obligation find a moral balance amongst themselves. We have become aware of when to take a stand. That is when we start making the right decision for long term gain rather than making the wrong decision for short term gain. Wisdom and maturity lead to greater understanding of major issues. Study as if you were to live forever. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Mahatma Gandhi. We cannot help ourselves without helping others. We cannot enrich our lives without enriching others. We cannot prosper without bringing prosperity to others. Jonathan Cole, Spelman College. Jonathan Cole once said, "Show me a person who is content with mediocrity, and I will show you a person destined for failure." Life is not a spectator sport. We cannot sit back and watch things happen. We need to find a purpose in order to make life meaningful and then strive to achieve that purpose. Living with a purpose. All of us are put on this planet for a purpose. We are part of a big picture, but very few people discover their purpose in life. Most of us just exist and keep counting our days rather than making our days count. Doctor Albert Einstein was once asked, "Why are we here?" He replied, "If the universe is an accident, we are accident. But if there is a meaning in the universe, there is a meaning in us also." And he added, "The more I study physics, the more I am drawn towards metaphysics. I would rather fail in a cause that will ultimately succeed than succeed in a cause that would ultimately fail." Woodrow Wilson. From where do we learn our values? I recently read the story of a high school value clarification class conducted by a teacher in Teaneck, New Jersey. A girl in the class had found a purse containing $1,000 and returned it to its owner. The teacher asked for the class reaction. Every single one of her fellow students concluded the girl had been foolish. Most of the students contended that if someone was careless, they should be punished. When the teacher was asked what he said to the students, he responded, "Well, of course, I did not say anything. If I come from the position of what is right and what is wrong, then I am not their counselor. I can't impose my views." If we do not learn values from our parents and teachers, whom do we learn them from? And when they don't teach us values, we pick them up by default from television and other such undesirable sources. No wonder society gets messed up. The teacher in the example above is not only irresponsible with distorted values but does not deserve to be a teaching our kids. Winning versus winners. What is the difference between winning and being a winner? Winning is an event. Being a winner is a spirit. Winners have kept winning in perspective based on their value system. Three inspiration winners. Number one, the Olympics is a lifetime event. Lawrence Lemieux stopped racing in an Olympic yacht race to help a fellow competitor who was in trouble. The whole world was watching. His priority of safety and concern for other people's life was greater than his desire to win. Even though he did not win the race, he was winner. He was honored by kings and queens all over the world because he kept the spirit of the Olympics alive. Number 2. Ruben Gonzalez was in the final match of a racquetball tournament playing for the world title. In the final game, at match point, Gonzalez played a super shot. The referee and the linesman both confirmed that the shot was good and he was declared the winner. But Gonzalez, after a little pause and hesitation, turned back to shake his opponent's hand and said the shot was faulty. He lost the serve and eventually the match. Everyone was stunned. Who could imagine that a player with everything officially in his favor, with winning in his pocket, would disqualify himself and lose? When asked why he did it, Gonzalez replied, "It was the only thing to do in order to maintain my integrity." He lost the match, yet he was a winner. Number 3. A group of salespeople left town for a meeting and told their families they would be back home Friday evening for supper. But with meetings the way they are, one thing led to another and the meeting did not end on time. They had to catch their flight back home, but arrived at the airport with only a few moments to spare. They ran with tickets in hand, hoping to be able to board the plane. While running, one of them hit a table knocking over a fruit basket. The fruit scattered and lay bruised all over the floor, but they did not have time to stop. They made it to the plane just in time to board. All of them breathed a sigh of relief that they had made it, except for one. He got up, said goodbye to his friends, and returned to the table with the fruit. What he saw made him glad that he had come back. Behind the table was a 10-year-old blind girl who was selling the fruit to make a living. He said, I hope we haven't ruined your day. He pulled out $10 from his wallet, handed it to her, and said, this will take care of the fruit, and left. The girl couldn't see what was going on, but as the man's footsteps faded away, she shouted from behind, are you gone? The salesman missed his flight, but was he a winner? You bet. One can be a winner without a medal, and one can be a loser with a medal if winning is not kept in a perspective. Winning is an event. Being a winner is a spirit. Three people ran a marathon along with hundreds of others. None of them won the race. Does that mean that these three people were losers? Not at all. Each went into the race with different objectives. The first ran the race to test his endurance. He came out better than his expectations. The second wanted to improve on his previous performance, and he did. The third person had never run a marathon. His objective was to complete the race, and he did. Each of these three entered the race with different objectives. They all met them, and they were all winners, regardless of who won the medal. Mark Twain said, it is better to deserve an honor and not have it than to have it and not deserve it. Dignity is not in possessing but deserving. If winning is your only objective, you may miss out on the internal rewards that come with doing something well. More important than winning is a winning with honor and deserving to have won. It is better to lose honorably than to succeed dishonestly. Losing honorably may signify lack of preparation, but dishonesty, winning signifies lack of character. The real test of a person's character is what he would or would not do if he knew he would not get caught. It is not worth compromising one's integrity and taking shortcuts to win. One may win a trophy, but knowing the truth, one can never be a happy person. More important than winning a trophy is being a good human being. Winners live and work every day as if it were their last day, because one of these days it is going to be and nobody knows which one. But when they live as a winners. There are some defeats more triumphant than victories. Michael de Montague. Winners are gracious. Winners are gracious. They never brag about themselves. They respect and appreciate their team members and opponents. Many people know how to be successful. Very few know how to handle success. Blueprint for success. I conduct a 3-day seminar, Blueprint for Success, globally, both in-house for organization and in open public programs. The seminar is based on the philosophy winners don't do different things, they do things differently. This philosophy came as counter to the belief winning is not everything, it is the only thing. This later philosophy leads me to the question that integrity of people who believe it to be true. It gives distorted meaning to the words killer instinct. If you ask a person on the street what is the meaning of killer instinct, most responses would be you have to win by hook or by crook. That is not killer instinct. That is pure dishonesty. To a good sportsman, killer instinct means number one, you don't put in 100%, you put in 200%. Number two, to win we must cash in our opponent's mistakes. Not taking advantage of your opponent's mistake is foolish. However, playing foul in order to win is not killer instinct. It is outright dishonesty. Unfair winning may give temporary success, but certainly not fulfillment. The reality is that life is competition and we have to compete. In fact, competition makes competitive people grow. The objective is to win, no question, but to win fairly, squarely, decently, and by the rules. Winners leave a legacy. Great people leave something behind. Winners recognize not one can make it alone. Even though champions get the medals, they realize that there are many people behind their success, without whom success would not have been possible. their teachers, parents, coaches, fans, and mentors. You can never fully repay those who have helped you. The only way to show a little gratitude is helping those who are following. The following poem says it all. The Bridge Builder. An old man going lone highway came at the evening cold and grey, to chasm vast and deep and wide, through which was flowing a sullen tide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The sullen stream had no fears for him, but he returned when safe on the other side, and built a bridge to span the tide. Old man, said a fellow pilgrim near, you are wasting strength with building here. Your journey will end with the ending day. You never again must pass this way. You have crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build you the bridge at the eventide? The builder lifted his old grey head. Good friend, in the path I have come, he said. The followeth after me today, a youth whose feet must pass this way. This chasm that has been not to me, to that fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I am building the bridge for him. Will Allen Drumangole. Socrates taught Plato. Plato taught Aristotle. Aristotle taught Alexander the Great. Knowledge, had it not been passed along, would have died. Our greatest responsibility is to pass on legacy that the coming generation can be proud of. Changing values. Today's values. Changing is inevitable. Whether we like it or not, it is there. We have had too much of the me generation and situational ethics, which have led to the loss of strong communities. People of the me generation feel sadness for getting caught rather than remorse for having done wrong. A survey of high school principals in 1958 asked this question: what are the main problems among your students? The answer was: number one, not doing homework; number two, not respecting property, for example, throwing books; number three, leaving lights on and doors and windows open; number four, throwing spitballs in class; number five, running through the halls. The same survey question was asked 30 years, one generation later in 1988. The answers were startlingly different. Here are the main problems of today high school students. Number 1, abortion. Number 2, AIDS. Number 3, rape. Number 4, drugs. Number 5, fear of violent death, murder, guns and knives in school. Old values are not obsolete. A nation is held together by shared beliefs and shared attitudes. That is what enables them to rise above the conflicts that plague any society. That is what gives a nation its tone, its fiber, its integrity, its moral style, its capacity to endure. John Gardner. Values such as responsibility, integrity, commitment, and patriotism are considered old fashioned by some. These may be old values, but they are certainly not obsolete. They have stood the test of time and will be here forever. These values have the same meaning in New York as in New Delhi or New Zealand. They are universal. I don't know of any time or a culture in history that did not respect these values. Values are at an all-time low. In any society, basic immorality and injustice lead to despair. The greedy and inconsiderate who seek immoral pleasure must be stopped by those committed to real values. We have strayed in the process of change. Any society that has lost its moral bearing is heading for a disaster because of all failures in history have been moral failures. More than half of a century ago, America was in the middle of a wrenching depression. One third of the nation's wealth vanished in a matter of months. Manufacturing declined 77%, one fourth of the labor force was left idle. Many cities could not afford to keep schools open. A fifth of New York school children were malnourished. At one point, 34 million men, women, and children were without any income at all. Yet, in the depths of that hardship, with its soap kitchens, banks closing, and hunger, Franklin D. Roosevelt could tell the nation in a radio address, our difficulties, thank God, concern only material things. What is goodness? If we took a survey asking people one question, are you good? Most people would respond yes. Ask them, what makes you good? Responses will be, I don't cheat so I am good. I don't lie so that makes me good. I don't steal so I am good. If you analyze the above rationales, there is not much substance in them. Just think of the person who says, I don't cheat. Well, that only means that he is not a cheat. And the person who say they don't lie and steal only mean that they are not liars and thieves. But that doesn't make them good. A person becomes good when he actually does good rather than not doing wrong. A person of values would be one who has qualities such as fairness, compassion, courage, integrity, empathy, humility, loyalty, and courtesy. What make people with these quality good people? It is because these are the kind of people who are dependable, stand up for justice, help the needy, make life better for themselves and those around them. To recognize goodness in all its form, we need benchmarks and standards. Benchmarks can be ethical or legal or both. Ethical ones deal with right and wrong and all the gray areas in between. They clarify what is good and more good and what is bad and more bad. How high are our ethical standards? What would you do in the following situation? Number 1. You know the taxi fare from your home to the airport is $64. You have paid that price several times before. You know it is the correct fare. This time the taxi driver asks for $32. What would you do? Number 2. You are dining in a restaurant. You order 4 dishes and eat, and the waiter brings all 4 but by mistake bill you for only 3. What would you do? Number 3. Your best friend is terminally ill and you are in life assurance salesman. Your friend needs $1 lakh worth of insurance. No one knows and no one can find out that your friend is dying. Would you write the policy? You cannot legislate ethics. What advice would you give to your children under the same circumstances? Is your behavior in conformance with the advice you would give your children under the same situation? We start learning ethics right after birth and continue all through our lives. Can we change ethical behavior? Yes, we need ethical training. What affects ethics? Greed, fear, pressure. Pressure to perform does not justify unethical acts. To be treated fairly is not the same thing as being treated equally. Ethics in business. Ethics is not lack of it is evident in every profession. Greedy doctors do unnecessary procedures and surgery. Lawyers bend the truth. Parents and children alike tell the very white lies. Accountants and secretaries often falsify reports. When we cheat the people around us, most of all we are cheating ourselves. We are preparing ourselves to be cheated. Additionally, when we cheat others, we start believing that others will do the same to us and we become suspicious and pessimistic. Prosperity brings responsibility. We cannot build industry and infrastructure while destroying the moral and social fiber. The consequences of not following ethical behavior are the same as not following legal behavior. Some people will never be ethical. They think they are taking the easy way. In reality, it is the tougher way. Could you face yourself if you did not do the right thing for your client? Could you brag to your kids and be proud and feel good? If you can't, then that behavior is unethical. A sense of humor and pride in yourself will keep you on course. Conclusion. Why don't people achieve excellence? The big reason is the lack of vision or limited vision. We need to dream beyond what is possible. Everything that we see today was a dream before it became reality. Live with enthusiasm, direction, and sense of purpose. Do you have a dream? What is your dream? Every day that you live, are you getting closer to your purpose? Don't listen to living failures. They will give you faulty advice on how to succeed. Instead, get your advice from successful people. Where the vision is 1 year, cultivate flowers. Where the vision is 10 years, cultivate trees. Where the vision is eternity, cultivate people. Oriental saying. Remember, winners don't do different things. They do things differently. Shiv Kera. Now move to the last action plan of this book. To become what we are capable of becoming is the only end of life. Benedict Spinoza. Take 15 minutes to reflect quietly. What three things would you most like to be remembered for? A, B, C. Now, for each of the things you would like to be remembered for, list three behaviors or activities that will move you along the path. List from A to B and C.